love the best. Oh, Regina. Show me the one you love the best. Oh, Regina. Jerry say he love Hannah. I said no, oh, Regina. Jerry say he love Hannah. Oh, Regina. If you love her, go and kiss her. Oh, Regina. If you love her, go and kiss her. Oh, Regina.
Dame chebe doule ou ma fille, cavalier moins que ba moins gwa chéri.
Dame chebe doule ou ma fille, cavalier moins que ba moins gwa chéri.
Dame chebe doule ou ma fille, cavalier moins que ba moins gwa chéri.
Dame chebe doule ou ma fille, cavalier moins que ba moins gwa chéri.
Tabouye moins, boule calaba moins, aïe tabouye moins, boule laouye ba moins, tabouye moins, boule calaba moins.
Et parmi la moins à bolifier chéri. Dame chebe doule ou ma fille, cavalier moins que ba moins gwa chéri. Dame chebe doule ou ma fille, cavalier moins que ba moins gwa chéri.
La moelle ou cani mal parler moins, ou cani chichile moins, ou cani wichile moins. Ale kwambe ou cani
Anaye
everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. Please stand for the national anthem of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Please stay standing as we invite Mr. Peter Dominic for a word of prayer.
Let us bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for life that you have given us. And we ask, Lord, that even with these proceedings here today, even as we deliberate, that you would end up being in our presence, that everything would run just fine. Y Padre Dios, nos dé gracias por todas personas que están ahí. Y Papa Body, no made no que beninu, ba no force, ou faire tout bite ou les nous fait pour. Tout ça nous peut aider à nous nom, à Jésus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Dominic. Please be seated. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. Honorable Octavia Alfred, Minister of Education. Honorable Minister Oscar George, Minister for Broadcasting. Manager of DBS Radio, Cecil Joseph. Mr. Erlson Matthew, Acting Chief Cultural Officer. Judges, students, teachers, invited guests, staff of DBS Radio, the media, the viewers and listeners. Bienvenue tout le monde, et merci pour venir ensemble ici bon matin. A warm welcome to the first ever 2022 DBS Radio Independent School Debates. Today we at DBS are beyond excited. We are simply presenting you, our debaters, with a challenge, an opportunity to debate or discuss a topic which is literally right in line of DBS's mandate as a national broadcaster, which is to play a part in preserving and promoting our culture. And as part of our contribution to this year's independence celebrations, we are very pleased to host this debate, host this discussion between two prestigious tertiary institutions, the Dominica State College and the Academic School of Learning, debating the topic. At this point, I could say discussing the topic, media plays a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. Slight correction. Media does not play a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. As a radio broadcaster myself, I don't agree to that. However, the two schools will present or represent the naysayers in our society. They will present to us, what the naysayers are saying, and they don't believe that media plays a critical role in preserving and promoting our Creole language. I would like to say how wonderful it is to have all of you all gathered here today so we could focus on our Creole language and its place in the media. We at DBS see the value in having the students put in the work to prepare strong arguments to help us or kick off a conversation about the work that the media plays in relation to keeping our Creole culture alive. We look forward to the discussion, and I hope that we can learn from each other this morning, and above all, inspire each other to cherish the rich Creole culture and language that we have. At this point, I would like to just make an announcement about a few changes in today's discussion. We had a slight miscommunication where both teams will now be presenting the opposing side of this topic. There are people, as I said, who believe the media plays a critical role. However, well, yes, there are people, and these people, I am one of those. However, the students will be opposing that view and will be judged the best presentation of the view that it does not play a critical role. So at this point, we would like to wish the students best of luck. And once again, welcome to DBS's debate competition. At this time, I invite Mr. Cecil Joseph, manager of DBS Radio, for brief remarks here this morning. Make him feel welcome, Mr. Cecil Joseph.
Good morning to everyone present. First of all, let me, through my salutation, welcome the Honorable Octavia Alfred, Minister of Education, Human Resource Development, Vocational Training, and National Excellence. The Minister, Minister Oscar, who is responsible for broadcasting, the Acting Chief Cultural Officer, Mr. Ulson Matthew, George's students who are present here today. It's your day. And so I want to thank you all for being here. DBS Language Department has seen the value of the focus of young people, and where we believe that young people can help or continue to help in shaping the landscape of Dominica. Many a times, as adults, we tend to speak and seldomly listen to the youth. Today, it's the opposite. As manager of DBS Radio, I am ecstatic to hear your arguments on the topic. The media does not play a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. And I will be, as manager of the national radio station, I will be listening attentively to see when you say the negative, how can I spin it to make it a positive? Because we can learn from what you are actually going to discuss this morning. I believe once upon a time, I too, as a young man, had my views, and seldomly the adults would understand my views, especially our parents. And they sometimes fail to understand that as time evolves, so the mind itself also evolves. And so today, you're going to challenge us as adults. You're going to make us know what is required in that changing world. Because when I went to high school, there was just the introduction of the fax machine. And today, the fax machine is archaic. I don't think any one of you all would have heard that word, fax machine, and what it means. Today, we are hearing of social media, and yet still, many of our society, adults in the society, are grappling to understand what the social media means. So today, as we discuss the negative of the critical role of the preserving and promoting of the Creole language, I would really like to understand why so many young people are not speaking the Creole language. And I can rebuttal to make you understand why when I grew up as a boy, my parents, whenever they would wish to speak Creole, that they would go into their own rooms or their own shells and would not allow me to hear any word of Creole. But today, thank God that I've made my research and understand the importance of the Creole, and that it is not a patois, but it's a language. And so I want to thank the both schools for taking the challenge and to make your necessary research and to discuss the points that are required. We are now seeing a world where the adults, to a certain extent, are disappointing us as young people. I shouldn't say us because I'm 60 years, so I shouldn't say us. But the adults sometimes disappoint. And it is you now who has the future in your hand. The future, as we have been taught at school, the future is about tomorrow. But today we know a new dispensation, like we have a new social media, that the future is now. So we are prepared to listen to you now to help shape not your future, but to help the next generation future. And so I really thank you all for taking some time off, accepting from DBS Radio that challenge, and to work with us as a media to really help in the development of the Creole language. Because I am of the view, as I end, I am of the view that the Creole language plays a critical role in Dominica's economy. This week is a typical example. The World Creole Music Festival will be next week. But everybody is purchasing their WAP duets and their various outfit for the independent season. And you hear from the food aspect of it, people are now talking about what is the best meals that they're going to be having for the season. You're not hearing anybody talking about fried chicken and chips. You're hearing people talking about kakoti and bakes and crab back. That's what you're hearing. So it helps in the whole thrust of our economy. And so, as I end, I want to say, may the best discussion win, but at the end of the day, let's ensure that the adults, listen to your views, because it is of great importance to every society as we continue to grow. May God bless you, and as we continue developing, let us ensure that we have Dominica in our heart. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cecil Joseph. Very powerful contribution here this morning. Thank you so much, Manager of DBS Radio. We now invite Mr. Earlson Matthew, Acting Chief Cultural Officer, to grace us here with brief remarks. Make him feel welcome.
Thank you very much, Kiwana. Honorable Octavia Alfred, Minister for Education. Honorable Senator Oscar George, Minister with Responsibility for Broadcasting. Manager of DBS Radio, Mr. Cecil Joseph. The Head of the Language Department, Kiwana Fontaine. Judges, invited guests, the media, viewers, listeners. Special good morning and welcome to the first ever DBS Radio Independence discussion. Change that word. We're in a season where we celebrate everything Creole, and nothing is more Creole than the language itself. It is synonymous with national identity and pride, and it's the foundation of many of our traditions such as Bele, Kot, Tim Tim, Creole song, Kada Slipso, just to name a few. It's also the backbone of many communities who walk the walk when it comes to Creole talk. I would like to commend DBS Radio, specifically their language department, on the initiative. Anything that empowers youth, we at the Cultural Division fully endorse, as we need the youth for continuity as much as they need the generations that come before them for guidance. And while we must never forget the contributions of individuals like the late greats Felix Henderson and Marcel Jamal Fontaine, there is another Fontaine sprouting, if I may use that pun, into a modern-day pioneer of language preservation in her own right. Your work is very much in line with the ongoing cultural renaissance, and we salute you and your counterparts. I was looking for. Now, as far as today's discussion goes, I don't want to overstep my boundaries and give personal views. But what I would like to say is that my initial reaction was one of curiosity, because I wanted to know how could you possibly argue against that topic, as I'm fully aware of the role that the traditional media plays in the whole cultural movement. So I am forced to put my biases aside, listen with an open mind, and prepare to be wowed. I'm sure that we will meet and surpass all expectations. They say that ideas come from divergent sources. And who's to say that our next marketing strategy or the foundation of the next policy that takes us one step closer to realizing the cultural preservation that we so desperately need does not stem from ideas exchanged during this initiative? I, for one, am very open to that. Okay, let me end by wearing the Acting Chief Cultural Officer hat and reminding everyone to continue participating in the upcoming independence activities. The season has been progressing quite nicely, and we're approaching the home stretch, as they say. So thanks again to DBS for having me, and good luck to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Always a pleasure. And we now invite Ms. Octavia Alfred, Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence. Make her feel welcome. Round of applause.
Bonjour tout le monde. I hope I can be short like the previous speaker. This morning, let me acknowledge the presence of Honorable Oscar George, the Minister responsible for broadcasting, and who will also represent Ms. Paul here this morning, the head of the DBS Language Department, the manager of DBS and other DBS workers, the judges, the people who will be discussing, students, invited guests, everybody, good morning. I am glad that both sides prepared for speaking against. That is the richness of the discussion for us this morning, because how could you do otherwise? From the bonjour tout le monde to me ka changer. Le côté tout petit, mettre l'école, take a bat sans faire l'école, pour parler créole, en lacou l'école. From Nouvelle Creole to Espérance Creole, from playing the cadence music to Creole heartbeat. All these are some ways in which media promotes the language to connect people. Information is key. Literacy is fundamental. And it is through our media that bind us together. That's why I tell you, I'm glad that people are saying no. Putting all this together, I think this morning, because it's DBS, I want to commend DBS for the crucial role that they have played in promoting our tradition, our culture, our heritage, for others to know and learn and replicate. And the Creole language is no exception. As we celebrate our 44th anniversary of independence, it's time for us to pull our boats a little further from the shore as it pertains to the Creole language. Despite our size, our topography, and our small population, Dominica owns creativity, festival, resilience, initiatives, cultural practices, philosophies, and local tradition, and we must not be left behind in the effort that is being made to grow the Creole language. And this morning I want to say to us that Creole was always there. The music was always there. As a matter of fact, the language maybe was spoken more before. And there was a time when the language went into agony. But a few wise people tried to rescue the language. And I want to say that information and awareness, that is what revived the language. And that's where I commend DBS for playing that role, to continue to give information and create awareness. I try to skip some of my points so that I don't move into the discussions of the debaters. And I think that's why the previous speaker was short too. He jumped some of his points. So broadly speaking, the relationship between culture and the media is one of inclusion. One cannot do it for the other. Reporting activities in Creole, giving announcements in Creole, all of that add to the richness of the language. I want to say to us that this is something we need to embrace. If you give a joke in Creole, people will laugh at the joke. If you give the same joke translated directly in English, people will laugh at you because now you become the joke. So when you say, "Quand fila we nou eve tout vari, I kouma se met yon kalte gam, mwen tan bip, le moun gade mwen fam la tel la oui." Are you laughing? But as we walked down, she placed more grace. And the next thing we knew, she was on the ground. That is a joke? So that's why I'm saying to you, that language is something else in itself. While it is a mix, it is also unique and it is independent. So you cannot make direct translation from English to Creole, otherwise what you have is a commerce. We cooked red beans and pig snout. Okay? What about if you have to give it a direct translation? No bouilli, pois rouge, ever gel cochon. So the person don't know the Creole, they come. They think they know Creole and they want to show off on us. We cooked beans red and pig and nose pig. So sometimes we do not pay attention to that, and people, even when they are reporting, instead of learning the gist of the information and presenting it, they make direct translation, and I'm telling you, we have a problem. If I have to give you one about a pastor that was being translated, all of us will leave the room. I finish with that. Maybe somebody will tell to you, or maybe you can ask me after. So I want to commend all of the students here today. You all will do well, because this morning you are playing your part and people will take notes. This language is not something you need to be embarrassed about. You don't have to be embarrassed. You don't have to feel awkward in speaking Creole. It is not a language for the poor or uneducated. It's not. I have a 5-year-old and he's doing well. Because when he was about 4 or 3.5, he says to me, Granny, why is it that when you are speaking to people about me and I'm there, you are using the next kind of English? And I said to him, no, baby, this is not English. It's a language. It's called Creole. Well, I need to learn that Creole so I can know what you're telling people about me. Because it was true. If I was saying something to a person about him and he was there, I would say it in Creole, but he finds it the next English. So he comes home one day and he said, bonjour, moi quoi moi que manger? And I'm like, and it was raining and he said, la pluie a venu, a nous bouger dormi. And his teachers are saying, who's teaching him? And I say, we are teaching him. Because the time when he said, I want to learn that kind of language, that was my cue. Question to parents out there, when you get the cue from the children, what do you do? Question for the teachers, when you get the cue from the students, what do you do? Because he was finding something was interested that I was trying to lost him in a language, I need to learn that language so that when you, Granny, speak about me in it, I know what you're saying. And too many times, sometimes, if we would just tell it to people how they will understand it, we would communicate better. I say to people in my church, if you want to talk about the goodness of God in Patois, do not spoil your testimony trying to speak English. We understand what you want to say about the power of God. Levez du bout avec dit moi le merci bon Dieu aujourd'hui parce que moi t'ai senti moi t'ai malade. Et bien moi prie Dieu bon Dieu répond moi. Yes, l'église moi dit bon Dieu fort and we say amen. You don't have to mix up yourself in English and spoil your testimony. Because this is where we need to go and people need to respect that. Because we cannot say it's our own and it's our language and for us to be embarrassed of it. I thank DBS for taking its role and its responsibility seriously as the nation station. And as you endeavor to promote our culture and increase social awareness, impact, and empower public participation and information, I wish you well. Today, from the beginning, you see what happened there? It's not about winning. From the start, I always say to people, Creole don't really need us to fight, for it. Creole has a way of fighting for itself. Look at how people change their uniform from khaki. You ever seen nobody with khaki pants and light blue shirt again? One time that was national uniform for primary school. Now all schools wearing plaid. If you do a research on plaid, you will know that Creole spoke for itself, and people were changing their uniform and have their schools wearing plaid, and they didn't even know it was Creole that was fighting for itself. So, or like this morning, Creole didn't want us to debate about a fact. I take that thing seriously. Creole didn't want us to debate about a fact. So Creole stood up for itself and confused us. And now we will discuss and take the notes. So let us love our Dominica and what it offers. Let us don't feel awkward. Because I know that Creole language can bridge the gap between high and low cultures, between the elite and pop cultures, between the young and the elderly. Let us work in raising the standard in promoting cultural content which includes the Creole language. Let us refuse to engage in futile competition and arguments about our culture, about who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. Because we know very well who we are, and we know what we want, and we want what is best for us and for those to come. We want to preserve our heritage that others left us, and we want to create something too that we can live. Let us not take what we inherited for granted. Let us play our part to ensure that we speak the language, not just around now. And let us ensure that those who come after us can speak it even better. And one thing I will say, and I hope no one takes offense, let us stop commercializing the Creole language for our own purpose and recognition. And let us view it as something precious and sacred that needs to be preserved and passed on. Let us promote and guard the Creole language as a vital part of our Dominica's heritage, as part of our nation's rich culture. Anu chebe langage Creole a chenu. Anu chebe langage Creole for. Bibla dit c'est ça qui a dit dans chèou qui a sorti en bouchou. So si Creole là en chèou, il est sorti en bouchou. Mettez Creole en chèou, jodi. God bless you. Jesus loves you and I love you too. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister for Education. And she just told us that she was a past principal of the Casabers Secondary School without saying it. Past teacher, you could tell by, the way she gave her remarks here this morning. Thank you so much. Very exciting, very interesting remarks from you. And an invitation is now extended to you, Miss Alfred. You're clapping. You don't know what I'm going to say. To you, Miss Alfred, to perform the Experience Creole theme song live at some point in time. Thank you so much for your contribution here this morning. We now welcome Mr. Oscar George, Minister for Broadcasting, who's representing the Minister of Culture this morning. Make him feel welcome. Welcome, Mr. George.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I wanted to speak some Creole myself, but after I witnessed Teacher Bonnie's presentation, I think I'll leave that for another time. Yeah, but it's really a pleasure to be here with you guys. I first want to acknowledge or apologize, for the absence of Minister Paul. And if I might say, unfortunately, Minister Paul was in a small accident last night. So keep her in our prayers. I'm sure that she wishes every one of you well. And I'm just hoping that she gets better really, really quickly. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our Minister, Honorable Alfred, our Chief Cultural Officer, the Manager of DBS, Mr. Joseph, and also the staff of DBS. Our George is here today. Very importantly, our debating team from academics and the DSC, our listening public. Good morning to you all, or bonjour, as they would say in Creole. It's really a pleasure to be here today, not just as a minister, but also as someone who has treated Creole with utmost respect, coming from a community of Pennville, where Creole has been and continues to be the backbone of our culture and our communication. Creole is and will always be important to us as a people. And I really want to just quickly give some context as it relates to Creole. It's important to know that Creole is a product of the interaction of different colonial and African languages. Nevertheless, the colonizers rejected or relegated the Creole languages in order to impose their tongue as the language of authority. And in the post-colonial era, this relationship continued to exist between the Creole language and the colonial language, with the latter being associated with higher prestige. And as such, the colonial language hierarchy did not disappear. And as a result, the official language in most of the now independent former colonies, such as Dominica, continues to be that of our colonizer. A matter of fact, a survey in 2013 found that 91% of small states have a European language as the official language. In many cases, like our sister island, St. Lucia, the colonial language was the only tongue given the status of official language, though the majority of the population spoke the Creole language. Notwithstanding this, the Creole language remains an important component of our culture. How we communicate has a lot to do with our culture. And this culture is what shaped our history and will shape our future. Creole is widely spoken in many communities around Dominica. And I can speak of communities such as Granby, almost 100% Creole being spoken there. Penville, where I'm from, is another example. A matter of fact, I was raised by my grandparents. And so you can well imagine that Creole was the only tongue we spoke while I was growing up. And I'm sure that many of you may have the opportunity to be raised by your grandparents. And they have contributed a lot to you being able to understand and speak the Creole language. But the problem we face in our society is that there seems to be a stigma attached to the Creole language. You know, some people associate the Creole language with uneducated people, as the minister pointed out. Some say that only people who cannot speak English are the ones who speak Creole. Very unfortunate. And these claims are definitely far from the truth. And I think that we all should be proud of the Creole language and be confident to speak it in any setting. You know, regardless if you're on the block or if you're on the playing field playing some sports, you're in church, it doesn't hurt to speak the Creole language. It's something that's important to us as a people. It sets us apart from the other Caribbean countries being able to speak Creole. And I can recall many times when I travel and I maybe meet up with a St. Lucian or another Caribbean person for that matter, and we want to discuss something, but we don't want the others to know what we're saying, we converse in Creole. And they'll be asking us, well, what are you saying? You know, it's talking English so we can understand. But we don't only have to use Creole when it's convenient to us. We should try to ensure that we speak the Creole in any setting. You know, nous tous ne pouvons parler Creole tout partout. The sad reality is that the Creole language is really an endangered language. Similar how we have endangered species that if we don't protect and preserve, they might get extinct. I think the Creole language also falls in that category. And that's why it's so important what we're doing here today. And if we don't take steps to preserve it, we might lose it. So the question for us here, students, listeners, is that how do we keep promoting our Creole language? How do we ensure that our students get exposed to the language? You know, how do we keep our Creole language alive? And we all have to play our part. And it starts with first learning the language, speaking it, and of course, building Creole literacy. Getting to the point where you can read a paragraph in the Creole language. And in that regard, I want to commend the folks that have really been pushing the Creole language here in Dominica. The late Felix Henderson, you know, one of the pioneers in pushing the Creole language. One who have made such a huge contribution to the language. Keck, you know, Comité pour Études Creole, they have also made a good contribution. You know, Prince Wadix also making a good contribution. And we also have someone among us making a serious contribution. I think we all should recognize Ms. Kiwana for all what she's doing for the Creole language. But importantly, I don't want to, you know, get into the debate. But I think that the media has an important role to play in preserving the Creole language. Because new technology and social media are important tools in our efforts to maintain and revitalize the Creole language. But what I believe is so important for us is consistency. Consistency. This is where I believe we fall short. How often do we use the platforms to engage in activities that seek to preserve the language? How often do we have programs in Creole? How often do we post something in Creole? You know, when we travel abroad, do we promote the Creole language? So the platforms may be available to promote the language, but we as individuals have to make a conscious decision to switch to the Creole language sometimes, and not only in the Creole season or on Creole Day. Creole should be spoken year-round in Dominica. So I'm looking forward to the debate on both sides today. A matter of fact, I have come fully prepared to take notes. As the minister, I'm sure that a lot of recommendations will stem out from the discussions here today, and we as a government will definitely take them on board. So I'm looking forward to that. And before I leave, I also want to commend DBS, the language department. I believe that bringing the young people together to share ideas, to discuss, I think that is very important for our country development as a country. So both academics and the Dominica State College, I just want to say that in DBS Radio you have a solid partner, and the opportunities are there. Take advantage of DBS, take advantage of the platform, not just in Creole, but in any way they can assist your continued development. So I wish you participants very well, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister George. Now I know that we will be soon hearing Mr. George's voice in Creole more often, on SPOS Creole, all right, in Creole. A strong advocate for the language. We would like to, at this point, just take a little break to acknowledge our sponsors, the Aid Bank, Domlec, Flow, Fort Young Hotel, Jay's Bookstore Limited, Jungle Bay Resort and Spa, Malcolm Stevens and Company Limited, Starry and Sons Company Limited, and Tranquility Beach Resort. Thank you to all our sponsors. All right, so at this time, we get set for our discussion. Before we do that, while we focus on Creole today, we're discussing Creole and its role, its place in the media and all of that. We, at the Language Department in DBS, we have created a platform not only for Creole. We have been, through our programming, we have been providing a space for our Spanish and French audience. So we don't only focus on Creole. We have now begun presenting news in Spanish. I see our Spanish friend here nodding, yes, in Spanish, and in French. So at some point in time, we will focus as well on all of these foreign languages because they all represent some of the nationals that we have who have made Dominica home at this time. So saying that, I now invite Jamasha Mello, who is a member of the language department at DBS Radio. She will be the moderator for this morning's discussion. I invite Jamasha Mello, and she's also a past debater as well, a past student of the Dominica State College, and we welcome her today to take over as the moderator.
Good morning, everybody. Bonjour, bonjour, ça qu'a fait. Students, moins bien, nous là. Well, today, although we will no longer be having a debate on the proposing and the opposing side, the ball still continues to roll, and we will be having a discussion on why the media does not play a critical role in promoting and preserving the Creole language. Before I state the structure and the rules for this discussion, I'll invite the members of the two teams. We have Céline Senhouse and Nashante Leblanc from the Academic School of Learning. You can take your seats to my left, please. And I'll now invite Janice Corbett and Adele Pascal, who will be representing the Dominica State College, specifically their Literary and Debate Society. It brings me great joy to see that we have a team, two teams of ladies, yes, It brings me great joy to see teams of ladies talking about a topic Creole, since I am a young lady immersed in the Creole language. It brings me great happiness and joy. So, today, ladies, you will be judged by a four-member judging panel, sorry. We have Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks as our chief judge. She'll be the one giving your critique at the end of this discussion. She is a Creole enthusiast as well as a member of Comité Poétique Creole, KEC. We have Mr. Julian Benjamin, vice principal of the Pierre Charles Secondary School, also a member of KEC. We have Miss Sarah Abraham, who is a teacher, who has been a teacher for over 30 years, and she's the principal of the Roseau Primary School, as well as a member of the YT Kubuli Writers Association. And we have Miss Andrea Christian, who has been a teacher for several years and was the principal of the St. Martin Secondary School. So these are your judges, ladies. They are sitting right in front of you. For this debate, each team will consist of 2 members, and although, as I keep saying debates because you know that's what was planned, however, for this discussion, we'll be having a 2-member team who will be opposing the topic, the media plays a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. The first speaker of each team will present their case for a maximum of 10 minutes, whereas the second speaker will be allotted a maximum of 7 minutes. After that, there will be a break for the judges to deliberate. They will put their tallies and their points together, and the best speaker will be determined by whoever receives the most points. Each speaker can get a maximum of 100 points today. I will be the timekeeper as well. When you have 1 minute left, I will put up my right hand. When you have no time left, I will close my right hand. The judges are allowed to remove points based on your going over time. You can go under time, that's perfectly fine. Each speaker will be judged individually, like I said, and at the end, the team with the most points from their first and second speaker will be determining the winning team. Is that clear, ladies? Yes? Yes. All right. And for the audience, we ask that you give no outbursts during the presentations. We ask that we conduct ourselves accordingly. We don't expect you to give any points from the audience because you can lead to your team being disqualified this afternoon. And you're also to address the moderator during all of this. Do not address your opponents by name, souple, please. All right, so I'm Madam Moderator, not Mr. I'm a girl. So, with that being said, let the discussions begin. And I will welcome the first speaker from the Academic School of Learning, Celine Senhouse, to give her statement for 10 minutes. Celine? Please wait for me to go to my seat before you start speaking. No, before you start speaking.
We are here to announce the death of Dominica's Creole language. Let's mourn our Creole heartbeat and experience Creole. This is the year 2027. The Creole language has died, and the media looked upon its cold body and did very little to resuscitate it. Good morning, Madam Moderator, honorable adjudicators, my worthy opponents, and distinguished guests. My colleague and I feel highly privileged to bring forth our views, standing resolute against the motion, the media plays a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. To draw context to the ambit of our contribution, I will now examine the moot in detail. The term media is referred to by Market Business News as all the communication channels through which we disseminate information, including broadcasting and print media, such as magazines, television, radio, and social media. The term critical, according to the Oxford Learners Dictionary, means extremely important because a future situation will be affected by it. Preserving refers to the process of keeping something valued, alive, intact, or free from damage or decay. Promoting is defined as to encourage people to like, buy, use, do, or to support something. The Creole language is generally accepted as a stable, natural language that has been created through the mixing of two different languages. For instance, Dominican Creole is a mixture between French and, I believe, African. I will therefore examine how the different forms of broadcasting and print media do not play an extremely important role in keeping our Creole language valued or free from decay. In my allotted time, I will examine 1. How ineffective the media is at preserving and promoting the Creole language, and just how much preservation can take place through the interactive and immersive educational techniques. Number 2, how the country's primary media outlet, the radio, scarcely engages in keeping the Creole language in Dominica from decaying against our modern and fast-paced lifestyle. And point number 3, how the widespread use of the Creole language is only propagated throughout a particular season with the media's aid. My colleague will ably support our stance by dispelling the media as a critical role player and proposing 2 alternatives at preserving and promoting the Creole language. Now, going into my first point, there is significant evidentiary support that interactive or immersive techniques are far more powerful tools in preserving, revitalizing, and promoting a marginal and endangered Creole language. This means of preservation of the Creole language is not highly achievable through media forms, and we counter-argue that this critical role can further be achieved through the primary mode of language acquisition of interaction or emotion. According to the Linguistic Society of America, otherwise referred to as the LSA, children acquire language quickly and easily without any formal education. Whether their parents actively teach them or not, the process of language acquisition through interaction is very much automatic. The LSA asserts that children who only interface with language through television or radio shows do not learn how to speak the language. Language acquisitions require a level of interaction. It requires a level of emotion, and the media cannot provide these things. Accordingly, strategic intervention at a very early age is critical for the learning of a language. One's first language is learned intuitively by what Noam Chomsky, who is a language acquisition theorist, refers to as an internal language acquisition device that is often triggered through the early childhood stages of maturation. The UNESCO and World Bank, in the 3rd Global Report of Adult Learning and Education, have voiced support for the promotion of Creole languages and their preservation through interactive education as an essential component of their strategy to tackle the issues that tend to influence a language's extinction. The reality within this status quo is that our Creole language, it's dying, and the primary dependence on the media to preserve this language is not going to get us anywhere. That will be our detriment. Secondly, the primary medium of exposing the Creole language in Dominica is to the radio, and that continues to serve as an incompetent means of promotion within this 21st century. An evaluation of the effectiveness of media in preserving and promoting the language is essentially an evaluation of the effectiveness of radio. Eclavai, who is a chief media strategy officer, pronounced in Is Radio Relevant in the 21st Century that, open quotes, radio is dying. What we are seeing is the final run of an ancient technology catering to an aging generation of consumers. With each passing day, the radio is losing its relevance to the youth of the country, end quote. Madam Moderator, permit me to ask you this question. Who is the target for the preservation and promotion of the Creole language, if not the youth of this country? Do we not always say that the future lies within the youth? How are we ever expecting the language to continue if we don't teach the youth, if we don't target the youth? If a strong emphasis is to be placed on the preservation and the sustenance of Creole within our society, the most critical role should not be placed primarily on the media, but rather on the schools, because media is an ineffective form in preserving a contact language, which is exactly what Creole is. You learn Creole from experience, from talking to, just like you said, when you spoke with your grandson, you said that you guys are the one teaching him, not the media. So, if we want to preserve our language, we cannot depend on the media to do it for us. Despite recent efforts to popularize and promote the Creole language, Creole media forms are limited in Dominica. There is no cartoon for the students to watch, you know, a quapo talking to a sister parrot in cartoon. Nothing for them to pick up on. TikTok is very relevant these days. There's no TikTok challenge telling students, you know, perform this, your favorite quote in Creole, best quote wins who knows what. There's no social media presence for Creole. Creole learning guides and Creole dictionaries are nowhere to be found in schools. And sadly, the Creole radio segments fall short of what is needed to truly preserve and promote the language. Prominent radio personality Felix Henderson, through his platform, has been a pioneer in the movement to promote the Creole language. He fought for the preservation, for this part of our culture. However, despite his very noble attempts, the preservation of Creole has never expanded from the radio waves into other media forms that are more commonly used today by the youth, such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Experience Creole, for example, is the longest running radio program on DBS, having been established since 1977. That was 47 years ago. 47 years. Unfortunately, even with a much younger host to tune in to the Generation Z, or as we like to call it, Gen Z, it has not been able to capture the interest of younger audiences and preserve the culture, preserve the Creole language. Despite efforts to expand its broadcast to other media platforms like Facebook, it has not been met with a popular reception. We then challenge you by asking you, are you proposing that more effort should be geared towards the preserving of an expired Creole program, or preserving the language itself? Another failure of the media is that the fact that these radio programs are aired at times that are impractical for young listeners. As earlier mentioned, target population for learning Creole should be the youth. So why have a Creole program running at times where students are either in bed or at school? How are we expected to learn if we are not able to hear? Again, Madam Moderator, who are we preserving the Creole language for? Now to my final point, which is that the widespread and frequent use of Creole in the media is only propagated throughout the Creole celebrations during October and the independence season in Dominica, and therefore contributes very little to the absorption of the Creole language by the target populace. Madam Speaker, would this debate or the Creole Spelling Bee competition take place at any time between the months of January to September? In fact, why is this debate not in Creole? If the media claims to be preserving and promoting the Creole language, why is this very debate not in Creole? The students should be able to speak it at this point. This seasonal scheme being capitalized by the media during the independence celebration serves only to stifle the advancement of our Creole language. And the very few programs that do extend beyond the season, they are always overshadowed by the vast majority of other media programs. In reality, the media is solely focused on promoting other cultures through standard English rather than the integration of the Creole language to ensure their ad revenue is maintained. I thank you.
Well, I guess I don't have to say put your hands together for Celine. For the knowledge of the judges, Celine spoke for 10 minutes and 7 seconds. Before I call on the first speaker from the Dominica State College, let me state the judging criteria that the judges will be using to give the speakers their points. Thank you. All right. The 4 young ladies will be judged on the soundness of points, audibility and clarity, logical development, posture and personality, and command of material. So these are the 5 judging criteria that the young ladies will be judged on today. I will now call on the first speaker from the Dominica State College, Ms. Janice Corbett.
In a survey conducted by the DSC Debate and Literary Society on October 15, 2022, 100 students were asked whether they knew of any Creole program on the radio or television, or even on social media that seeks to promote the Creole language. Madam Moderator, 72% replied that they didn't know of any. Does this sound like the media is playing a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language? Certainly not. Madam Moderator, honorable ministers, honorable judges, my esteemed colleague, my most worthy opponents, listening audience and media, good morning. Today, it is an honor and privilege to be here, and my mission is a singular one. I am confident that I can convince you that the media, in fact, does not play a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. This moot, in my opinion, is an untruth. My opponents are even here today and agree with me. Allow me to first define some key terms. MarketBusinessNews.com tells us that media is the communication channel for which we disseminate news, music, movies, education, promotional messages, and other data. This definition of the media also includes both physical and online newspapers and magazines, television, radio, billboards, telephone, the internet, and fax. Critical role, as stipulated by Cambridge Dictionary, is a duty or use which is extremely important to the progress or success of something. To preserve means to keep alive, intact, or free from decay, according to Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary. Finally, promote, according to Cambridge Dictionary, means to keep something as it is, especially in order to prevent it from decaying or being damaged or destroyed. Madam Moderator, allow me to reiterate the moot based on the definitions I've given. We are present here today to discuss that the communication channels for information dissemination here in Dominica are playing a crucial part in keeping the Creole language intact. It is my conviction and that of my colleague that some forms of local media may make attempts towards the promotion of the Creole language. However, there is not enough being done by the media to preserve the Creole language. And as such, we can't designate their role as being critical. My worthy opponents, in order to preserve a language, who should be the target? Obviously the youth. Preservation of a language or tradition revolves around the youth so that it can carry through to following generations. This is the definition of preservation. This is how countries preserve their customs and values as well as their traditions. Regarding the youth demographic in Dominica today, the media is certainly not playing a critical role as it relates to preserving Creole. I will substantiate this with the following points. First, the promotion of Creole on social media platforms is almost non-existent. Second, educational programming is severely deficient. And finally, thirdly, the most critical role lies within other sectors. My opponents and fellow peers, I ask that you think about what you typically do on a normal day. Now, you may say studying or playing a sport of some kind, but I'm sure that the first thought that came to your mind was using my phone or scrolling through social media. Now, I have to ask the question, knowing this modern fact, why does the media not capitalize on this and make further attempts at promoting the Creole language on social media platforms? Firstly, the social media platforms the young people of today use are greatly lacking the promotion of Creole. Honorable judges, on the relevant social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, there is little to no Creole content to be found. While scrolling through the endless rabbit hole called TikTok and swiping through the latest trendy photos on Instagram and double tapping likes, one can count on one hand how many times we have encountered Creole content that is educational. And I would like to stress on educational. I can attest to this being a young person myself in Dominica. The media may make an effort during the independence season, but there is no structured approach to using the media to actively promote the Creole lifestyle in normal times. An editorial in ACT for Youth of April 5th, 2022 reads, a 2018 study by Hope Lab and Wellbeing Trust found that 93% of youth ages 14 to 22 use social media mostly daily. That is 93%. My most worthy opponents, the social media effort necessary for promoting and preserving the Creole language among the youth is just not enough. Where are the educational ads, videos in Creole? We must consider the target audience and act accordingly. Why are we not capitalizing on the opportunity to push for more Creole content on these social media platforms? You can't possibly disagree. The media must promote the Creole language on these platforms if they are to play a critical role in preserving the Creole language. They absolutely must. Madam Moderator, the evidence is clear. Education of the youth is central to the development and the improvement of the lives of the young people globally, as well as the transmission of norms and values. As a matter of fact, according to a 1962 Independence Youth Rally speech by former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Eric Williams, when you return to your classes after independence, remember, therefore, each and every one of you, that you carry the future of Trinidad and Tobago in your school bags. The future of a country does indeed lie in the school bags of the youth. Madam Moderator, education can come in multiple forms, such as the radio, printed media, television, and much more. My opponents, we meet here in a discussion hosted by the DBS radio station. Allow me to start here first. There are currently only 2 Creole programs on 2 out of our 4 major radio stations. All of these take place during regular school hours. Even this discussion is being held at a time when all of my peers are in class and can't even attend. I can give kudos to DBS since they've been hosting their Experience Creole segment every weekday for several years now. However, you must consider your target audience once again, the youth. Now tell me, honorable judges, if you were trying to promote a language to the most important audience, the youth, as a means of preserving the language and via radio broadcasts, what approach would be the most effective? Be honest. The best approach is to broadcast these programs during a time when the youth is available. Papa Boje, meet the youth where they are if you want to play a critical role in preserving the language. Regarding print media, such as newspapers and television as another form, there is no regular Creole segment in the papers. This segment only comes during the independence season, and the television broadcasts no notable programs geared towards the youth. I will mention that there used to be a segment during the news broadcast in Creole. However, once again, this dials down to the audience. Young people don't even tune into news in English on television, let alone in Creole. I also must say that one cannot implement something for a demographic without considering said demographics' behavioral patterns. We have to find effective ways that take into account the target audience, the young people. Only through effective promotion can we successfully preserve a tradition or custom. Madam Moderator, according to Minister of Education, Honorable Octavia Alfred, in a February 24, 2021 address, it is not enough to try to create a deep awareness, a broad or simple understanding, and the big celebration of a culture, of a people, and who we are for just 1 month of an entire year. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring to the table one final analysis. In a survey conducted among 100 DSC students in October 2022, only 20% of respondents felt that the media was a major avenue for which they would learn the Creole language. When the influence that a sector has on its target becomes inadequate or ineffective, it is always the job of other institutions, education, religion, and the family, to name a few, to pick up the mantle and finish the job that was started. My worthy opponents, the media plays only a minimal role in promoting the Creole language and definitely does not play a role in preserving it. I am a firm believer in paying someone their dues. Les bon, dit bon. I can't in good faith say bon in relation to the media playing a critical role in promoting and preserving the Creole language. Pas joli la pièce. Merci.
Eh bien, Madame Octavia Alfred n'a pas coup, bon coup. However, we are thanking you for your presence here this morning, and I was told that you, as well as Senator Oscar George, has to leave right now, but thank you for attending. You can watch it live on DBS Facebook. For the knowledge of the judges, her time was 10 minutes and 7 seconds as well. I will now call on the second speaker from the Academic School of Learning, Neshante Leblanc.
Everyone, this true story I am about to share is quite sensitive. It occurred a few years prior to St. Lucia's independence, where a young child lay dying. That child was virtually invisible to all domains, and because she was tarnished by her strong links to slavery and poverty, she was blackened. Madam Moderator, that child survived just a bit longer to see St. Lucia's independence, where a pro-movement began to champion for her rights and against that disease that had plagued her for years. That child was Creole, and she was repositioned as part of St. Lucia's distinct cultural identity through the use of educational awareness campaigns in the education system and as a significant aspect of everyday life. Madam Moderator, the critical question is there hope for our Creole language? Madam Moderator, honorable judges, guests, and my fellow opponents, good morning. I continue to firmly oppose the motion that media plays a critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. My colleague would have ably provided context to our approach of the moot. And, as Mr. Cecil Joseph kindly requested, I will explore two alternatives at preserving and promoting the Creole language. 1. The media as a secondary tool is deficient in its approach to preserve our language, which is already under threat of extinction. 2, a culture mindset shift must work in conjunction with any Creole language policy efforts at its preservation or promotion. Madam Moderator, the media as a secondary tool is deficient in its approach to preserve a language which is already under threat of extinction. Suzanne Romaine has contributed significantly to to the Language and Linguistics Compass Journal of the University of Oxford on preserving endangered languages. Romain highlighted that the prospect of the loss of linguistic diversity on such a large scale does not warrant a one-size-fits-all solution for revitalization and preservation, and that the immediate need is to identify the threat which prevents transmission to the next generation. This, in fact, means assessing the functions that are crucial to intergenerational transmission with a reasonable chance of successful revival and continuation. One of the first targets identified was community contact and engagement. You see, the most critical means through which our Creole language can be preserved is through contact, having it incorporated into our everyday life. That is how it was transmitted to our grandparents and then our parents, even before the media came into existence. Allow me to remind you, preservation is about the future. Who are we preserving it for? Madam Moderator, the media is a tool, a secondary one at that. The primary tool is learning from the native Creole speakers. Without them actually teaching us, the media cannot even be utilized, and primary face-to-face interaction always plays a critical role. I mean, we saw the challenges with online school throughout the pandemic, but I will refrain from reigniting the horrors for all the students here. A culture mindset shift must work in conjunction with any Creole language policy efforts at its preservation or promotion. This aspect played a critical role in reviving Creole in St. Lucia. In fact, Romain referenced the fact that the preservation of an endangered language ultimately entails the maintenance of the group who speaks it, and therefore, the arguments in favor of doing something to reverse language death are ultimately about preserving cultures and habitats. Languages can only exist where there is a community to speak and transmit them. Madam Moderator, when languages lose their speakers, they die. I mean, come on. The language must first be accepted by society as professional and acceptable. It must be included in all formal domains, like government and education. Our elders must play a critical role in this mindset shift and be open to teaching us and not wanting to reserve it for their own knowledge. Madam Moderator, I fear that if this shift fails to happen, then we would not even be able to use the secondary tools like social media to promote our language. One of the most frequent mistakes activists make is to attempt to reverse a dying language by promoting the marginalized language in the domains now dominated by the majority language, English. Our scholars already face the enormous task of keeping up with technological changes to produce print documentation through the use of Creole dictionaries and other texts like T. Matador. Creole language is so diverse in its intonations across different communities in Dominica. Madam Moderator, again, I fear that what is salvaged will inevitably be small in compared to what is lost. Madam Moderator, I draw finality to our contribution on this contention on the media's critical role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. I urge us to think of the Creole language in the same way we do other natural resources, which need careful planning to ensure their survival. It is a vital part of our cultural identity, and it ought to be preserved. Promoting and preserving the Creole language is not just a matter of recording words or phrases and digitizing them to be held in an online vault. Language is inherently about people, culture, and identity. In order to keep a language alive, it needs to be spoken by many, immersed in everyday culture, and actively passed down to future generations. Toot Moon, thank you for listening. Let us bring back our language.
Neshante spoke for 7 minutes and 18 seconds. I will now call on the second speaker, our final speaker for this discussion, Ms. Adele Pascal from the Dominica State College, who will also have 7 minutes to present her piece.
In the words of Honorable Miss Octavia Alfred, Mwe se Creole, ou se Creole, nous se Creole. Madam Moderator, Honorable Ministers, my worthy opponents, honorable colleagues, listening audience, and the media, good morning. It is with great passion and conviction that I stand before you here today, alongside my esteemed colleague, to present our case in denial of the belief that the media plays a critical role in preservation and promotion of the Creole language. First and foremost, I will admit that the media may play a role in promoting the Creole language. However, other entities play a more important role, or in fact, the critical nature of that role is held by other entities such as the Ministry of Education, the Cultural Division, and private cultural organizations. I say that what you, the media, refers to as a critical role should instead be considered just a complementary effort in comparison to the role of the educational and cultural sector, because it is not enough. Madam Moderator, the educational sector and cultural sector have done and are doing much more than the media might have attempted to do. They work synchronously to continually foster the Creole language in appropriate promotions to the youth. CEC, the abbreviated form for Committee pour Études Creole, Committee for the Study of Creole, was established in June 1981 under the leadership of cultural icon Alwyn Bully. According to a May 2022 article in the Sun newspaper titled CEC 40 Years and Beyond, the objective of CEC is to foster a deeper awareness and respect for our mother tongue Creole. Madam Moderator, CEC's early activities included literacy classes and the celebration of Journée Creole, Creole Day, which is celebrated on the last Friday in October. From its inception in 1981 to current day, on Creole Day, Dominicans are called upon to speak Creole in places from which its use would normally be restricted, such as schools, government offices, and banks. The contribution of CEC in establishing such a tradition has certainly been more of a critical role than what the media plays. Further, on other critical activities of CEC were the production of books and other publication on aspects of the language and oral traditions, and even a Creole spelling bee for primary school students and a Creole choral speech competition for secondary school students. In 1992, CEC published Dominica's first ever Creole English dictionary. All of this was in an attempt to document the language and related traditions, provide learning and reference materials for students and researchers, and promote writing in Creole. It is organizations like this that make lasting impressions in the history of Creole language preservation. Honorable judges, let's delve even further into the role of the educational sector. According to campus head Dr. Kimon Joseph, the University of the West Indies UWI Open Campus offers fundamentals of conversational Creole and a certificate in intermediate conversational Creole. Similarly, the Dominica State College has integrated the Creole language into the curriculum in the form of a Creole course. The Dominica Art Institute in 2013 started providing a specialized course on the Creole language, and just last year hosted an Easter workshop for children ages 6 to 12 featuring Creole language sessions. In a May 12, 2016 Dominica News Online article titled, "Creole Does Not Affect English in Schools," former Chief Cultural Officer Mr. Raymond Lawrence is quoted as saying, "Together with the Ministry of Education, we can continue to build on the inclusion of the language even in the national curriculum in schools, and give greater exposure and promotion to this beautiful language of ours. And in that way, we will help to ensure the future promotion and preservation of the language." He did not say together with the media. It is absolutely clear, my worthy opponents, it is the educational sector and the cultural sector playing the critical role in promotion and preservation of the Creole language currently. Now, to my last substantive point, the stigma associated with using the Creole language needs to be minimized before the media can truly play a critical role of the preservation of the language. According to the Britannica Dictionary, a stigma is a negative and often unfair belief that a society or group of people have about something. The Creole language is not always well understood and appreciated. There is clearly need for us to have a better understanding of its value. All the attempts made by the media will be futile if they do not start working towards ending the stigma surrounding the Creole language first and foremost. Some believe that speaking a second language would curtail the ability to speak proper English. The rationale was that Creole is backward and was often referred to as the poor man's language. In a 2019 press launch of UWI's third country conference titled Creole as Cultural Heritage, Framing, Strengthening, and Advocating, former Chief Cultural Officer Mr. Raymond Lawrence said, and I quote, "Our culture should not be bringing us down, but lifting us up as people and be sources of inspiration to young people," end quote. Public appreciation and awareness of the language plays a major part in its preservation, as culture cannot be forced upon to people. They must accept it willingly and learn the language with pride. In the words of President of the National Youth Council, Ms. Ashma McDougall, we cannot preserve, develop, or precisely promote any idea if we are not first proud of it. The media does not currently play a critical role in the preservation of Creole, but we would surely like to see them try. Merci.
Are you looking for quality and value for your money? And the Ale Cote Starring and Sons. From Rica Juices, Meso Juices, Colobina Snacks, Sunshine Snacks, Messi Boku Evaporated Milk, B29 Medisoft products, and so much more. We Usatape Tutsa Starring and Sons. Located at 787 Supermarket on 45 Great George Street, opposite All Saints University. Evenuri Lakpote Usa. Cash and carry on Cross Lane and Fields Lane, and wholesale on 16 Hillsborough Street. Ever see where we pass Avenue 71463. Nobody beats the starring Module Pearson. Are you looking for quality and value for your money? And the Ale Cote Starring and Sons. From Rica Juices, Meso Juices, Colobina Snacks, Sunshine Snacks, Messi Boku Evaporated Milk, B29 Medisoft products, and so much more. We Usatape Tutsa Starring and Sons. Located at 787 Supermarket on 45 Great George Street, opposite All Saints University. Evenuri Lakpote Usa. Cash and carry on Cross Lane and Fields Lane, and wholesale on 16 Hillsborough Street. Ever see where we pass Avenue Wozo? We have our mobile buses going around the country. Our opening hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Want to get in contact with Starring and Sons? Our numbers are 440-8433 or 277-1463. Nobody beats the starring Module Pearson.
Applause, ladies. These ladies are speaking over there, not hearing me tell them clap for themselves. Adele, you don't want to give yourself a round of applause? But I must say you all did very well, and I like the fact that you stated that media is not just the radio. A lot of people have this misconception that media is simply the radio, and that's not true. Media can be in written form as magazines and newspapers. We have social media right now, so it's not just the radio, DBS, Kyrie FM, Q95, etc., who can play their role, but the Chronicle, Sun newspaper, and all of the other medias that we have out there can play their role in preserving and promoting the Creole language. Now, I will not say the media does not, because I'm part of the media, and I'm currently playing my role in promoting and preserving the Creole language. And someone, I don't remember which debater exactly, asked, why isn't this debate in Creole? Let me pose a question to you four. If this debate was in Creole and we said that come here and you had to do the entire debate in the Creole language, would you do it? You can't. No. Uh-huh. All right. So if we did have to say, come here and do this in Creole, it would not be possible because most young people don't really know the Creole language. A what? A little bit? You can manage enough to stay alive. All right. You can manage? Nobody here is fluent? Who here is fluent in the Creole language? Raise your hand. Who here is fluent in the Creole language? Raise your hand. That includes you as well. Mrs. Wilson? Not one soul. I'll raise my hand. Everyone. Define fluent. You can hold a conversation, converse, and have a discussion in the Creole. Yes, okay. Enough to survive. Yes, okay. Okay. You see, the Shante, you're killing me. Anybody on this side? Samin, put up your hand, Samin. Thank you. Right. So, where did she learn it from? I'm sure she learned it from home. You see? So you all are now debating the topic that, the media doesn't play their role. Let me give you an example. I learned Creole from home, right? I grew up in the cultural capital, and I learned Creole from home, from my parents, from my grandparents, and everybody around me. I could speak fluent Creole from the age of 2. However, there are a lot of words in the Creole language that I did not know, that I'm currently learning now as I am immersed in the media. So the media probably hasn't played its role for you. However, it has played its role for certain people out there. So for example, hold your point. For example, we have more Creole on our program, Experience Creole. And every day, Kek Committee Poetic Creole, they present a word, and there are many words that I have never heard in my life. Mr. Gregory Abbas is here and he can attest to that. There are many words that we get weekly, and I'm like, what is that? Even a simple word like net, the word for net, N-E-T, net, is nas. And I never knew that. And although it's a simple word that you learn to spell in English from the time you have started school, you have no idea what it would be in Creole if it is not used in your household. And we leave it up to the media to, be the ones to use those types of words that we will never get the opportunity to learn at home or hear at home. And that is the role where the media comes into play. So, on my part, I'm not debating the topic, so I can say the media does play their role. But you guys did an excellent job in saying they did not. And I like the point that you made about TikTok, because guess what? There is Creole on TikTok. Did you know that? Did you know that? Because the algorithm that you all have is different. All you're on Creole. Boy. Okay. So, my dear participant is telling me that it's not the fact that the media does not play their role. They do. It's just that they are not playing their critical role. All right. Thank you for that. At this point, does anyone in the audience, I see people stroking their chin. I am speaking and I will be speaking until the judges come back. So if somebody wants to relieve me from speaking, you can come to the podium and give your views on this topic, whether it is proposing or opposing. So if anyone wants to give their views, it can be a student, It can be a teacher, Mr. Abes. So Mr. Abes will give his views on this topic. He is a Creole pathway maker, a Creole enthusiast, and a member of Comité Poétique Creole, KEC. Make Mr. Abes feel welcome, please.
Thank you. When you shot a bel figo abe akishami mwe. No, there are two grandma women here, right? Kewala and Miss Mello, right? I followed the proceedings, the discussion. I actually recorded it on my phone so that I can take it home with me, the lovely voices, and listen to the arguments. Okay, just a few general comments. I know that the judge, I think there is supposed to be a critique being made by the chief judge. Just one or two things that I would like to bring to our attention. When we talk about the media, we talk about, there's a concept about the traditional media, okay? There's another concept about the mainstream media, yeah? And then there's a concept again they call the new media. Okay, so these are different concepts. When we talk generally when we talk about the traditional media, we look at it in two ways. One would be the traditional, the print media, you know, the newspapers, radio, television, and so on. When you take it from a sort of a cultural perspective, we have the traditional media is sometimes also called the folk media, right? Now, when we talk about folk media now, we get into the things like the storytelling, the skits, the drama, and all of that. Now, this is a domain that never really was focused on in the concept of the debate. But I'm just bringing that out to, when we speak about the media in the largest sense, or the widest sense of the term, that segment called the folk media, that culture media, is a very important tool and vehicle. Matter of fact, I think, on reflection, some of you had made the point about those elements of that and its role in that, okay? And then when we talk about the new media, so generally the concept of the new media is things like social media, the digital media and all of that, and we talk about the TikToks and all of that, okay? And when we talk about mainstream media now, it's a kind of a funny concept, but basically it still refers to the media, the dominant media, in terms of print, radio, television. Now they say mainstream because it is like out there, big and bold, in your face. Yeah? So it means therefore there is a media that is on the side, you know, or media that is on the periphery. Okay? And that is where in some cases the new media, the social media come in. Another very important thing about the new media is that it has undercut, you might say, the mainstream media or the media giants. Right now we have concepts of what we call citizen journalism, right? So right now everybody who has a mobile phone is a journalist, is a videographer, and all of that, and then an editor as well, video editor, and post things on the media, okay? So what it has done now, it has democratized the whole question of the media, okay? And made the media more accessible to the general population. So I sort of say, sorry? I didn't get that. Oh, well, that's a very good point. Well, actually, that point cuts across all the media, you know, even the mainstream media, the giants, you know, they come out with some. For example, in Paris, in France, there is a newspaper called Le Canard Enchaîné, something like that. In Trinidad, I remember there was another newspaper called The Bomb. Man, that is hilarious stuff. But the important thing here to understand is that the media, in the widest sense of the word, and the term media, does in fact have an important role to play in the preservation and documentation of the Creole language. I mean, there are numerous examples. I mean, DBS has done so many wonderful things, you know, that in fact DBS has played a fundamental role in that language preservation efforts. When we started Creole Day many years ago, that's in 1981, I think one of this young lady here, when we started Journée Creole in 1981, the whole idea was that we would abandon English for the whole day and take on Creole. So to do that now, all the programming, announcements, news, everything on DBS radio that day was done in Creole. Okay, so in the first few years of Journée Creole, that is what was happening. Another interesting thing that happened in Journée Creole in the early days, all classes, all activities done in the schools in Creole. And in those days, I mean, the students enjoyed Journée Creole for that so much that every year they were looking forward eagerly to Journée Creole. I mean, right now, because of the sort of decline in speaking among the younger generations, and the younger teachers too, so you find the language focus is not as strong as in the early days. Another important thing that happened on Journée Creole as well, in terms of promoting, was that you had speeches in Creole delivered by the Prime Minister of Dominica to mark Journée Creole. I think this needs to come back because it's very symbolic, right? If our leaders in the country, in all domains, religious, political, cultural, and so on, but especially the political leaders, if they can speak more in Creole in terms of either official speeches, general interviews, and stuff like that, that is very helpful because these things are very symbolic. Okay, people pay a lot of attention and they model a lot on their leaders in the society, whether they're religious, sporting, cultural, political. So leadership has a very important role and responsibility in that respect. Yeah? And then, well, I think I have said enough. I need to give somebody else a chance to say something too. But generally speaking, I enjoyed the debate. I mean, the sort of poise and delivery and the confidence that radiated from you made me proud, really. It really made me proud. I was really happy to see that. And I think the dissemination of your points, because DBS, and I'm not sure who else has recorded it, but the replay of those presentations by you is going to be replayed. It's going to be on YouTube, on all the platforms, so people can sit back, you know, drink some coffee, eat popcorn, whatever they want to do, and just listen to the sounds. Some of it will get into the news stories of DBS as well, some of the things that you're saying, the points that you're making. And I think the debate as a whole, let me just congratulate DBS for the initiative because you're seeing the results. You're seeing the results right away for that particular initiative. And the topic, again, congrats to DBS for that topic, the role of the media in preserving the Creole language. Very, very relevant topic, and I think it's joy all around. Merci en pile, merci en shy, merci en low, merci autant, it all means the same thing. Thank you very much. Ayahora in Kalinago. Nice.
And also too, as manager of the institution, I would really like to compliment you all ladies for a job well done. Your research has gone deep, and so, as I said in my presentation earlier on, that I will be taking some notes from what you have said. And I think one note that I must make mention of is the video aspect of it, where immediately it sent me to my children. I remember I have a son that is 43 years old now, and in his time, his mom would put him on the floor to watch television, and he was watching Road Runner. You remember Road Runner? Right. And Bugs Bunny. And eventually they started to market. The Americans used that wisdom that they had to market the Roadrunners and the Bugs Bunnies and so. And today we are seeing bags, we are seeing shoes, we are seeing cakes. And one of the participants, I think it was you, who made the point about the Kwapo and the Cicero parrot. That for me, it gave me goosebump. As a people, we have never seen these little things. We have never seen the importance of our own identity to actually bring out some of the greatest creation. And this morning, I hope that not just some organization or some authorities, but I am hoping that the greater authority, to include that of the Ministry of Culture, to include that point, that we can use our Cicero parrots on our national flag. We have our Kwapo Bank. And if we can have a conversation in Creole between, and I'm hoping that those intelligent students that are here today, who normally do their production, as we just heard Rabes making mention of, who are able to do your production, your video production, challenge yourself now. I heard one said I can speak it and I can make it, I can pass. Another one said I can do a little bit. I'm hoping that these four of you all could come together and create an episode of the Kwapo and the Cicero parrot, speaking some kind of Creole that will convince not only the people who are involved in marketing, but would convince, even from a larger point of view, of promoters to do the same cake, the same bags, and the same things that our parents today are purchasing for our 7-year-old and our 5-year-olds. And I really want to compliment you all for that. DBS Radio, as we are speaking, we are into a program right now with Tranquility Resort and Spa in reference to Mwe Asa, which means I in that. Mwe Asa. And every month, the last Friday of every month, we'll be going to a different community to highlight that Mwe Asa, which means that the same interaction that you made mention of, we will have to start seeing that interaction. But I'm also challenging you all, as I said earlier on, that you all are the future and the future is now. I'm challenging you all now to start with the same vigor that you had from your research, to start taking that research that you have made and implement it to yourselves. And you four can be the beginning of the new era for Dominica and the preservation of the language. I gave my age earlier on, and I'm hoping that when I'm 80, in the next 20 years, that I'm alive and I can see you all sitting in my position or standing in my position or speaking in my position, and to encourage others for the preservation of the language. Because I think from looking at what you all said and listening to what you all said in terms of the preservation and the interaction, you play a critical role in that aspect. And that at the schools that you all are now, Greg made mention of the fact that we are doing it once a year in the month of October. I'm going to request of the schools that let's do it in our assemblies on a Friday. If we can do it in our assemblies on a Friday, where a word or two can be said in our assembly, we can see the difference. Because we're talking about interaction, right? And we say not necessarily media, right? So I'm going to challenge you all. I'm going to challenge you all that if you say that the media doesn't play a very critical role, you said that they play a role. But one of the participants made mention of the various organizations that can play that role. I'm now including the schools. And I think if we fail, it means that the school will fail. As someone said, that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago said that education is in the school bag, of the children is in the school bag. I'm asking you all as the children today that let us make Creole in the school bag. DBS Radio We are doing what it takes from way back in 1977 to make sure the Creole remains alive. Today, the Creole is where it is, and I can say that proudly because of the work that DBS Radio has been able to play. And if we did not in 1977 did not take the language seriously, what would it be today? While we have been involved in the Creole and we are seeing where it is today, just imagine if we did nothing at all. And so today, DBS Radio can take center stage and to state very clearly that the work of the World Creole Music Festival today, the work of Creole Month, the work of Creole in the Park, Creole Bodlame, and all what you hear about Creole, and not just Dominica, but in the region, to include that of the Francophone countries, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and St. Lucia, Haiti to a certain extent. DBS Radio was the pioneer, and I really want to be on record to thank the work of Felix Henderson, who at the very beginning went around the world. I think he went to the United States to ensure that he established Creole as a language and that it was not a bastard child. And today, we are here discussing this, and I'm really hoping that from the point of view of the students who are here, let us use you as a specimen, let us use you as that catalyst of that change. And if you can make that change, you can almost tell yourself that it's not just a PhD that you have achieved, but you have achieved for the sustainability of your country's culture. Thank you very much.
Hello again. I just want to add my very small voice to, the judges are here, to our opinion on what just took place. Once again, congratulations. You all did a marvelous job. I think I underestimated this discussion, debate previously. But I am so happy that you guys have added your voice to this discussion, because where it is that, we thought that the media plays a critical role, we have learned that maybe it does not, to the extent that we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We have done a lot for the past, 40 years, but there's a lot more to be done. And I thank you so much for bringing this to light. We at DBS, we are willing to partner with you guys. We are willing to work with you to ensure that we continue creating that platform for the youth to engage and discuss and converse in Creole. I will agree with Jamasha. I learned Creole to some extent from home. I heard it at home, I listened, but I could not converse in Creole. Now, where media played a critical role for me was when I started working at DBS Radio. I started working, I was attached to the Creole department, and that is where I took flights in Creole. So the media, to some extent, plays a role. We need to revisit if it's a critical role, if it's a sufficient role, if it's a role which needs to be, needs to be pushed further. But it does play a role. And I'm sure that you observe that, you appreciate that. But again, thank you so much for adding your voice to this discussion. We have learned quite a lot, maybe more than what I expected. But I will let the judges critique you on your debates and your discussion. And once again, thank you. Well, job well done.
Well, this is where I take my seat, and I will now give up the podium to Mrs. Delia Coffey-Wicks, who will give the judges' critique on this discussion without announcing the results.
Bonjour tout le monde. À nous battre bravo à ces jeunesses-là. And Miss Leblanc, what I said, let us clap for the young people. Okay, so today's debate or discussion or whatever we want to call it, it was very well timed, very eye-opening, I must say. And I want to really congratulate the young people for the level of preparation. They didn't just decide, well, oh, it's Creole we're talking about, so let's just go there and see what we want. We can see, based on the information that was shared, that there was adequate preparation on both sides. It is amusing that both sides spoke on the same slant, and some of the information that came up was duplicated, but not all. So it means that gray matter was in order, brains were at work. One of the things that we also noticed is that the source of information was sometimes different. One team focused a lot on the local context, while another team looked a little further afield. Not that the information is not relevant, but when it sticks closer to home, then it's so much easier for you to identify with. The surveys that were done with one institution speaking to the people close to them, that spoke well for some of the preparation. You had the time, you used what was readily available, and reference was also made to information that was available from further afield, meaning that even if we're operating in the Dominican context, but we're not limited to just Dominica. So adding that further slant was good. Then we also had, a breath of fresh air. Youth representing the views of youth. So the people who came up with the idea were some of those on the way out. And they were maybe we were trying to solidify our relevance in the whole Creole story. We got a rude awakening. What we thought was more critical for us, obviously, is not so high up on the list of relevance for the youth. And we are big enough that we are able to accept that and appreciate that you all have exposed that to us. One of the things that became really, really clear was not the bashing of the efforts that are being undertaken, but some of the weaknesses that prevent them from being as effective as they could be. So for example, yes, there is programming, but look at the timing. And not only for the youth, there are adults who would love to listen every day to Experience Creole. But it happens during the working day. And how many people are privileged enough that they can have a transistor radio or they have permission to have their radio playing at their computer while they do their work? So again, that little window is shut because of programming and the timing. So maybe that has to be revisited. And the other forms of media, I hope that they have gotten the message that they too need to become a little bit more involved. Now, I am not ashamed to say that yes, while I use social media, some things are just not really interesting to me because maybe I'm a little bit too attached to pen and paper, so I'm still stuck with my relationship with my book and maybe just the radio and a little bit of Facebook, but you see all the TikTok and the Instagram and so on, that fly right above my head. So even in terms of creating content for that sort of social media, even if I have the information, that is as far as it goes. So it means the challenge is there now for you, the youth, to become actively involved, since you have identified that these are some of the areas of weakness because you don't see it on TikTok and Instagram and the challenges and so on. Then you have thrown out a challenge to yourselves. I am also very happy that all is not lost because both sides have made recommendations as to what can be done to improve. None of the sides indicated that youth are not interested in speaking Creole. Yes, they are, but the packaging of it, instead of giving it to me in a brown greasy paper bag, pretty it up. Use some shining paper, use a madras tie, open it out a little bit more interesting. For me, it's not about the wrapping, it's what's inside. But not everybody is a delay of a few weeks. So we have to know who it is that we're catering to. I am very, very happy that other parts of our society, other organizations were identified as having a more critical role. And I think we all get the message that it is not that media isn't doing a good job. They need to be applauded for the work that they've been doing, especially DBS that has held the strain for so many years. But more needs to be done. And the others who are not as involved need to come on board. And one of the other things that really struck me was the fact that Creole as a language of life should not be restricted to a particular time of year. I think a little bit more emphasis should have been made on the role of the family. Because as it came out in your deliberations that by immersion, being part of a family, you hear, you learn. But the role of the family in cementing that language of life was not put across as strongly as it could have been. I speak on behalf of the judges when I say to you that it was a difficult task. It was a difficult task because the level of discussion that was put forward, every single one of you deserves an individual round of applause. As one of the ladies said, l'œil bon, dit bon. Et mon cas dit ça, il était bien bon. You understood me? When it's good, say it's good. And I can tell you, it was very good. Okay? So, yes, congratulations to all. Those people or the group that did not make it to first place, do not feel that you have lost. It's just that when you have things where you have to have a ranking, somebody has to come first. And the judges have the task of deciding what gives one team the edge over another. But the team that doesn't come first, that does not by any means say that you were not good. You are far from not good. One was excellent, and the other was excellenter. That is a Creole English word I just made. And that is my right as a Creole speaking person. Because what is critical is that we understand When I say one was excellent and the other one was excellenter, we all understand what I mean. If there is a non-Creole speaking person standing outside the door, they'll be lost. But that's their business because we're not talking to them. Okay? So continue the good work. And let it not just be an exercise in futility because you were asked to deliberate on a topic. But I am hoping that based on the deliveries, that people are actually convinced that what they were saying was true and was right. And even coming out of preparation for this exercise, your presentations here today, that you on an individual level will take active steps to move the whole Creole programming forward. So you're good at TikTok, try something and make Mrs. Wicks very excited that somebody come and show her, no, you're holding the phone upside down, it's not so TikTok working, but look at Creole TikTok or look at Creole Challenge. You never know. I might just be TikToking more than a clock. All right? You have put out the challenge. Take it up yourselves and let us continue. Let us continue because yes, you are the future, but you are also the present. So let's move forward and continue to make my flat nose feel long. Thank you very much.
Well, after the judges' critique, I wouldn't want to be in their place right now at all. Let me remind you of the criteria that the students were judged on. They were soundness of points, audibility and clarity, logical development, posture and personality, and the command of material. And they could receive a maximum of 100 points each. At this point, I will call the head of the language department, Mrs. Kiwana Fontaine-Wilson, to present the results.
Okay. The second best part of this morning's discussion is presenting the results of the first ever 2022 Independence Debate Competition. And as the Chief Judge said, there was an excellent and an excellenter school. So this is what I have before me right now, and it gives me great pleasure to announce the results of this wonderful debate. With 380 points, we have the first speaker of the Dominica State College. So the first speaker of the Dominica State College has received 380 points. The second speaker received 350 points. For the Academic School of Learning, the first speaker received 335 points. Speaker number 2 received 325 points. So with a total of 730 points, it gives me great pleasure to announce today's winner of the DBS Independence Debate Competition 2022, the Dominica State College. And congratulations to the Dominica State College, job well done, and congratulations to the excellent side of this debate with 660 points. We have a gift or presentation for the best speaker of today's debate, and that speaker comes from the Dominica State College. And also, so the overall winner is the Dominica State College. The overall speaker comes from this side, the Dominica State College, and once again, congratulations. So I call on my moderator to come join me on stage as we make the presentation of awards for this debate competition. Okay, so you have the list of the sponsors and what do we see? Go ahead. We would like to call on the manager of DBS Radio, Mr. Cecil Joseph, to join us on the podium. And we also say thank you to the students of the Convent High School for gracing us with your presence this morning. Thank you so much.
At this point, we'll be awarding the participants. Like they said, there is an excellent and an excellenter. So that means both of you will be rewarded for your job well done here today. We'll award the best speaker first, and that was Janice Corbett, speaker number 1 of the Dominica State College. And you'll be receiving a gift, compliments, Tranquility Beach Resort, as well as Jay's Bookstore Limited. And we would like both of the members for the Dominica State College team to receive their plaque first. Each of you will receive a plaque, compliments Tranquility Beach Resort, and your school will also receive a large plaque. So Miss Christian, you can hang it up in your office and make it look all pretty. And remember, on October 21st, this happened. Your cross is long, Miss Christian. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Wait for your individual plaques. Smile for a picture. The winning team will also be presented with 2 gifts, compliments Flo Dominica. Wait, don't move yet. And they are now receiving their gifts, compliments Flo Dominica. And Janice, after you put everything in your hand down, you can come back to receive your plaque. Oh, not a plaque, I'm sorry. Give compliments Tranquility Beach Resort. At this point, we will ask the excellent team to come up to receive their plaque as well, and we'll call on the representative from Aid Bank to present this plaque, which will be going to your school. to put it up in your office, make it look pretty. Remember this day, October 21st. Say cheese for the camera. That one right there. And the two young ladies, don't sit yet, come back. Just put down your load and come back. You will be receiving a voucher, compliments Fort Young Hotel. And you will also be receiving 2 tokens from Flo Dominica. A round of applause for our excellent team. And the ladies from Dominica State College, can you come back, please? You all will be receiving a dinner for 2 compliments, Jungle Bay, Dominica. I like that smile. As well as 2 tokens from Flo Dominica. Please give our excellent team a round of applause. Yes, I will. I'm going to keep using it. Okay. Condima Wicks, please give a round of applause for the excellent team. And your plaque for Miss Christian to put in her office. Do we have one more? Oh, and the first runner-up team, you will also be receiving a gift, compliments Domlik. So as you can see, there was no winner, no loser per se, because everybody got rewarded, and rightfully so, because it was an excellent showing of these 4 young ladies here this morning and afternoon. We would like to thank our sponsors, the Aid Bank, Domlek, Flo Dominica, Fort Young Hotel, Jay's Bookstore Limited, Jungle Bay Resort and Spa, Tranquility Beach Resort, and on our broadcast this morning or today, Malcolm Stevens and Company Limited, as well as Starring and Sons and Company Limited. I will now invite Mr. James Rodney, Sales and Marketing Officer at DBS Radio, to present the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to everyone. Let me recognize the Honorable Octavia Alfred and the Honorable Oscar George, who were with us earlier. Mr. Cecil Joseph, Manager of DBS Radio, Head of Language Department, Mrs. Kiwana Fontaine Wilson, our esteemed judges, staff of DBS Radio, invited guests, students, listeners, and viewers. As the saying goes, in everything we must give thanks, and I have been given the task to deliver the vote of thanks and I am beginning by saying thank you for the opportunity. This has been a very interesting and insightful discussion, and I think we can all agree a very successful one. And for that, we can give ourselves a round of applause to the students and the schools. On behalf of the management, language department, and staff of DBS Radio, we extend a heartfelt and sincere thanks to the Minister of Education, Human Resource, Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence, Honorable Octavia Alfred, for her presence and remarks here this morning. The Minister for Telecommunications and Broadcasting, Honorable Oscar George, for his attendance and giving us a few brief remarks. To the Chief Cultural Officer Acting, Mr. Ulson Matthew, we say thank you for your attendance and your remarks as well. To the Manager of DBS Radio, Mr. Cecil Joseph, we say thank you for your support of this initiative and delivering a few remarks to this activity. To DBS Senior Accountant, Mr. Peter Dominic, thank you for the word of prayer in a different manner. I think it took a lot of us by surprise listening to you deliver the prayer in another language. And again, it speaks now to the testament of the variety that DBS Radio now embodies. To the judges, Mrs. Delia Coffey Wicks, Mrs. Andrea Christian, Mr. Julian Benjamin, and Ms. Sarah Abraham, we say thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to lend your support and judging this discussion. We say thank you to the Dominica State College and Academic School of Learning for accepting the invitation to participate in this discussion. And by extension, we say thank you to you, the students, Celine Senhouse, Neshanti Libla, Janice Corbett, and Adele Pascal, for your willingness and enthusiasm to engage in this wonderful discussion. We say thank you to you, we say thank you to your parents, and we say thank you to all the other students who were here to support you. A special thank you to the sponsors, Aid Bank, Domlec, Flo, Fort Young Hotel, Jay's Bookstore Limited, Jungle Bay Resorts and Spa, Malcolm Stevens, Starring and Sons, and Tranquility Beach Resort. Also the pioneers for Ayin Dat, Moyasa, for providing the gifts and goodies for this competition. We say thank you to the UE Open Campus for making this venue available to host this discussion. To the board, heads of department, and staff of DBS Radio for the support and contribution towards this independence discussion, we say thank you. A very, very, very special thank you to the moderator and assistant coordinator, Jamasha Melo, for all her efforts and hard work to make this independence discussion the success that has been achieved here today. And I believe she needs an extra round of applause. Thank you, Jamasha. And to the coordinator, head of department, or the head of the language department rather, the Creole lady as we say, Mrs. Kiwana Fountain Wilson, we say thank you for bringing the vision to life and for the superb execution. A special thank you to you. We say thank you to the technical team of Dean Thomas, Denzel, Aaron, and Dennis for bringing this broadcast to the airwaves and the social media. We say thank you. We also say thank you to the caterer who have prepared some snacks and refreshments, which we will all enjoy at the end of these proceedings. And we say thank you to the listeners and viewers of DBS Radio and our Facebook page for joining us and in your own way being part of this independence discussion. And lastly, we say thank you to everyone, because without you all, this independence discussion would not have been made possible. Our sincerest appreciation to you all. And once again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodney, for preparing and presenting the vote of thanks to all our members of the audience, the listening public on the radio and on Facebook. And now this has ended our grand first ever independence discussion competition. We do hope to make this an annual activity. And although you all ask for it to be placed out of the independence time, I think it is very significant that this kind of activity is being held during the independence celebrations. So ladies, with that being said, thank you for your presence. Thank you for your great and excellent Kodima weeks. For today, it was amazing, I must say. Kudos to your schools who helped you to prepare, your head of your debate team, and everybody else who helped with your presentation. Thank you to everyone who is here today and all those in the listening public. And now we invite you to have a few refreshments. Yes? No? Okay, we invite the schools and judges to receive a few refreshments outside. Outside? Outside. So thank you everyone for coming, and I do hope that you will help us or come here again next year when we do have this event. Thanks again.